the tokenized uranium is direct physical ownership of uranium. It's not physical possession of uranium, but you have the beneficial ownership of it. There's no fund, there's no fund manager, there's no fund fee.
Welcome back to Metals and Miners. I'm your host, Gary Bohm, and today we're exploring a groundbreaking frontier in commodities, the world of physical uranium, nuclear energy, and blockchain innovation. I'm thrilled to welcome Arthur Breitman, co-founder of Tezos, to the show. Arthur's helping to lead a revolution in retail investing through uranium.io, a Tezos-based platform that's shattering barriers to own tokenized physical uranium, tapping into the surging demand for clean energy and AI power. Arthur, welcome to Metals and Miners.
Wow, what an introduction. Thanks, Gary.
Okay, Arthur, let's begin with uranium.io. The suggestion to have shattered the traditional $7 million entry barrier for physical uranium ownership. Can you walk us through how the platform achieves this and what makes it accessible for retail investors with even small amounts of capital?
Yeah, absolutely. So, normally if you want to buy spot uranium, it's an OTC market. So, you'll need to have an account with one of the institutions that, can custody uranium oxide. So we say uranium, but it is uranium oxide or yellow cake. And yeah, the minimum trade size is fairly large. And so the way this can be achieved on uranium.io is essentially that you have a trust that is sitting on an account with a depository. So in this case, specifically Cameco in Canada. And the trust has a set of beneficiaries. And that set of beneficiary is represented on a ledger, on a blockchain. So, it uses a blockchain. It's not a crypto product. It's not a crypto asset. It's physical uranium. So what you get essentially is beneficial ownership of physical uranium. But I would say, there's not that much magic to it. But whatever magic there is that blockchains make this type of thing very easy, and they make distribution easy. I think that's the main value of it, is that there's a network of custodians around the world that can custody tokens on chains. There's a network, there's software, there's wallets, and then beyond that, there's ability to exchange, like to trade it, buy it, and sell it, and you can do this 24/7. There's a network of exchangers. So not many of those support this particular token in this instance. But I would say like the main value of a blockchain in that case is like putting it on rail that make it globally and easily accessible.
Okay. So Trilitech is a key player in advancing the Tezos blockchain, known for its energy efficiency and upgradability. How does uranium.io as a decentralized application on Tezos exemplify Trilitech's vision for real-world asset tokenization and broader blockchain adoption?
I'm so sorry. I hope this is not live. I had my headphones conk out for a second. Can you repeat?
Yeah. How does uranium.io as a decentralized application on Tezos, how does it exemplify Trilitech's vision for real-world asset tokenization and broader blockchain adoption?
Yeah, very good. So I would say what sometimes gives the blockchain space a bad rap is that a lot of it is circular. People have built really clever primitives in DeFi, decentralized finance. It has lending market. It has trading platforms. It has even perpetuals, which is a new type of derivatives invented in the world of crypto assets. And however, all of it is circular. People will use this DeFi platform to trade more DeFi tokens and to borrow against more DeFi tokens. So, you could call it Ouroboros finance. It kind of eats its own tail, but finance has to finance something. And in that case, I would say our focus has been trying to make this technology good for something, like actually like solve a real problem. And I think this is an interesting problem to solve.
Yeah. Okay. So, Arthur, the tokenization of physical uranium is central to uranium.io's offering. Could you explain to us the technical and regulatory steps that are involved in turning physical uranium into these XU308 tokens and how Trilitech leverages this blockchain technology to ensure transparency and efficiency?
Yeah. So I think I touched a little bit on this earlier on. So I'm not the foremost expert on this. The basic structure is that you essentially have a trust. The trust holds the trust holds an account with a depository. It can, and if you want to create tokens, what you would do is you would have your own account with the depository. You would do a transfer to the trust. The trust would then create a position in its ledger, and that position would then be tokenized. And there's a tokenizing agent, which is Archex, which is an FCA-regulated entity here in the UK. So based on that entry in the ledgers, it would create a token and then transfer the token to you. So that would be the process. And then going backwards, let's say you don't want your token anymore. Of course, you could sell them to someone else, but in principle, you could also detokenize them. That is, like, take them back to the trustee, say, please, credit my account at Cameco with this amount. Obviously, that would be in larger amounts, but that is essentially the process. In terms of regulation, there's different regulations that come in place. Some of them have to do with commodities. Some of them have to do with market metering. Some of them have to do with anti-money laundering and market surveillance. Some of them to do with spot commodities. Overall, we've had a lot of benefits working with Archex, who has a lot of expertise in the topic. And it's also a benefit of working with spot commodities is that they tend to have a simpler set of regulation than other financial products.
Now, for all the reasons you just mentioned, I'm assuming that this process emphasizes regular audits and a proof of reserves to verify that the XU308 tokens are fully backed by physical uranium.
Yeah. So there's an audit of the position, and then the number of tokens, of course, is something you can actually audit on the chain itself.
Okay. So, Arthur, trust is paramount, obviously, when dealing with a commodity like uranium. How does uranium.io, you may have explained this, but just maybe go into a little bit more detail. How does uranium.io, in partnership with Cameco and Archex, ensure that the physical uranium backing XU308 tokens is securely stored, it's audited, it's verified, and what role does this proof of reserves play in building investor confidence?
Yeah, so I mean it's paramount, right? Because if you buy a token and there's nothing and you think you're buying uranium and there's nothing behind it, that is a problem. First, they are reputable parties which are involved in this. We have Archex, who's involved in this, Trilitech, who's involved in this. We've also worked on liquidity with Curzon uranium trading, and of course, like the depository itself, Cameco is a highly regulated, highly known entity. And then specifically for the trust, you have an audit that actually looks at the balance of the trust, and I believe you can actually find a signed audit on the webpage. I hope that's right. I don't know how often it's produced. I think. Oh yeah, there we go. Proof of reserves. If you go to uranium.io, you scroll to the bottom of the page, and you'll see the balance ending in January 31st, 2025. Now we haven't had, which stands at 38,000 metric tons, and there hasn't been more tokenization since. So there's quite a bit of supply on the tokens already, and so there's no need for more proofs. But that's been the latest balance statement, and we can get more balance statements. Okay. It's still the platform is still nascent. I think we'll need to see to have like a little bit of customer feedback to see exactly how they want to see the audit, how they want to get them. But essentially, like, the point is they can be provided in whichever way is most convenient for people.
Yeah. So it's been highlighted that uranium's low correlation with assets like oil, gold, and the S&P 500 are playing a role here. How does uranium.io position physical uranium as a portfolio balancing opportunity?
Yeah. So I want to be a bit careful here. I don't want to fall in a trap. Some people will say like, oh, buy this, it's an uncorrelated asset. And like, it's easy to be uncorrelated, but like, you don't want to just be uncorrelated. Obviously, you have to have alpha. Like what's valuable is uncorrelated alpha. just being uncorrelated by itself is not going to like get you very far. So correlation, like lack of correlation, you can actually witness that. So yeah, that's you can see pretty good evidence of that. There's not that much correlation. Obviously, like in a huge market crash, everything gets correlated, right? There's just a flight to safety. So if we have the COVID tomorrow, it's possible that just everything like dunks down. So be careful with stale correlation. But overall, definitely like not that market correlated. In terms of alpha, commodities don't have interesting alpha, unlike equities. They're not like bonds, which have a yield. They're not like equities with an underlying business and a risk premium. The alpha for the commodity, it depends entirely on whether or not you believe that the market is currently underpricing uranium. So the way that buying a commodity works essentially is you saying like, well, I believe that future demand is not going to be met with the current supply, that the price will have to rise in order for future demand to do that. And in commodities, you have to deal with supply being elastic and demand being elastic as well. So for uranium, interestingly, the price elasticity of demand is fairly inelastic, in a sense of like, if you spent a ton of money building nuclear power plants, you're going to run them. Like, even if uranium gets way more expensive, that's not your main expense. Your main expense was building the whole thing and amortizing the whole thing. And it's just like, once you've paid that cost, it's really not worth saying like, oh, I'm not going to run it because uranium is too expensive. So people are going to consume it no matter what. But however, supply is elastic. And supply is elastic because people can build more mines, people can do more projects, people can get more uranium oxide out of the ground. So the question is like, how fast can they do it? And are they anticipating? Are the mines currently saying, I see all these people building nuclear power plants. I bet I should like start a new mining project and start a new building project. And so in a sense, if you're in a scenario like this, you could position the commodity speculator as someone who's basically taking risk off of the mining operator by saying like, what? You don't have to bet that uranium is going to be more valuable in the future. I'm going to buy it now at a slightly higher price so that you're convinced that it's okay for you to extract it from the ground, and then I'll be able to sell at that higher price. So the role of the speculator here is taking risk of the mine to offer a better price in the future to the operator. So sometimes people don't see the social value of speculation. That's where it is. So you have to be doing this play. The question is like, is this being under provisioned by the market, or is it being over provisioned by the market? And that depends on like what you think, like how fast you think like demand for uranium is going to grow versus how fast you think supply for uranium is going to grow.
Okay. And from the standpoint of the retail investor versus the institutional investor, is there different benefits from the tokenization process, the diversification versus, oil, gold, S&P 500 or anything else? Is the retail investor going to see or have an opportunity at that alpha that you're talking about?
I mean, I'm not saying the alpha. What I was saying was more like a broad framework for assessing, like, if you have a commodity, like specifically like, base metal, like whether or not there is alpha. So to simplify it, whether or not is alpha is like, are you more, are you more bullish on the increase in demand for uranium than the average market participants? Essentially that's really what it boils down to. Like, do you think the market is insufficiently bullish or over bullish on this thing? That's where the alpha comes from, if there's any. I personally see that a lot of trends. So I think energy demand is going to keep increasing. Some people are say like AI is going to fizzle. Some people say that it's going to start consuming even more energy. I'm in another camp. I think we're going to see a lot more energy demand from AI. I also think like geopolitically, we're seeing like governments like change their tune. So like just like today, there was a news that Germany is reversing its stand on nuclear power. Belgium has reversed its stance. So it's completely changing. There's still some like people swinging counter current. Like I think Taiwan is shutting down its nuclear power plants, which makes no sense because they're an island and I don't get it. But overall, the bigger trend is like people turning towards nuclear power. And yeah, I think it can be interesting to retail because the thing about uranium is that it's everyone heard of it. Like everyone heard of nuclear power. It's something that resonates with everyone. It's not an obscure commodity. It's very well known, and it's really in the mind of everyone. And because it's been like kind of like this secluded asset class, which is not really like investable and which is not really part of like a lot of on people's radar, that actually tells me like the fact that, hey, it's going to come in very high demand and it's kind of hard to get, tells me that it's probably like there's a decent case to be made that it is going to be under like it's being under provisioned.
Yeah. So I do want to come back to the AI points that you were just making in a moment, but going back to investing in this type of product, this tokenization versus ETFs or mining stocks directly, could you elaborate a little bit more on the advantages and the potential drawbacks of owning tokenized uranium compared to these other investment vehicles?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at it. Let's look at the closest product first, which are like these ETFs or ETPs. So essentially what they are is that they are a fund, and the fund buys uranium and then puts its share on the stock market. So legally it's a different structure. So, the tokenized uranium is direct physical ownership of uranium. It's not physical possession of uranium, but you have the beneficial ownership of it. There's no fund, there's no fund manager, there's no fund fee. There's a custody fee for the custodian, but there's no management. Those products which are very popular, like Sprott, for example, or like in London, they are funds. So there's a fund manager. Now, some ETFs, they have creation and redemption. And some ETFs, you can go and say, here's the underlier, create some shares for me. Or here's some shares, give me back the underlier. And that keeps the market in balance. Those products do not have creation and redemption. And as a result, they can trade at a discount for a long time, or they can trade at a premium. If they trade at a discount, normally what the fund manager could do is go out, sell some of the balance sheet of the fund, and then buy back some of the shares. Or if it trades at a premium, they could issue more shares. But they typically don't really do that. And so as a result, it doesn't end up tracking the spot very well. Then you have mining stocks. It's always, I think, a debate in commodities whether or not to go with like the mining stock, the producer, or to go with the raw commodity itself. And they're not exactly the same investment. So with a mining stock, the benefit is that you're investing in a business, so you have an alpha coming from the business. You basically have the risk. You're being paid for the risk adjusted. You're getting a risk adjusted return, right, from it, saying like you're putting money into a risky venture. And obviously, it's going to correlate with uranium, unless the miner is somehow like perfectly hedged. If there's more demand for uranium, all else equal, uranium miner is probably going to make more money. So you get this correlation and you get an alpha. So it sounds like it would be much better, but it's not exactly the same thing. It's not exactly the same bet. Again, the bet that you're making when buying a spot commodity is that you are essentially providing a financial service to the producer. You're telling the producers, I'm going to reduce your risk by increasing the price now, so that you can actually start taking more out of the ground today as opposed to waiting. That's essentially what you're doing. That works really well when the cost of storage is very low. If the cost of storage is very high, that doesn't work, right? If you're trying to do natural gas, which is super expensive to store, you can't really do that. Like the best way to store the natural gas is to leave it in the ground and not extract it in the first place. But with stuff like gold, with stuff like uranium, you can extract it. It's pretty cheap to just keep it around. So you can actually like build a stockpile.
Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing all of that. All right, so let's go back to AI and robotics. To your point about AI, progressing and being more embedded in humanity, robotics are advancing very, very quickly, and humanoid robots are advancing very, very quickly. And I think, the first commercial or possibly the first retail ones are going to be sold second half of this year, where you could own them in your home. Companies are deploying them. They have this beehive mentality where one learns, they all learn in a group. All of that requires energy. Where's that energy going to come from?
Yeah, it's going to come from the grid. It's going to come from a lot of sources. I don't think it's only going to be solar. I think the demand. So I'm more bullish on the demand for energy than the people actually building energy are. So I think it's going to take people by surprise, and so it's going to come from everywhere. Like people will reopen coal plants, and people will build more. And in terms of like what's going to be built, I think a lot of it is going to be solar and nuclear.
And it seems to me that, you know, they're wanting to put AI literally in every manufacturing gadget, every technology gadget, every car, everything you could think of. They're wanting to embed AI into. You add the humanoid robots, the energy requirement is so much larger for each query compared to you know, a Google search or something to that effect. That, would you say that energy demand actually could be infinite moving forward?
I mean, you know, I think demand is always infinite. It's just like the question is like how finite is demand at a certain price, and so I believe that demand will be high enough to sustain a much eventually to sustain a much higher price of energy. Now, of course, as energy price increases, people will build more and more and more. So, in terms of like the total production of energy on Earth, I think it's going to go way up.
So how does uranium?
I don't have a
Yeah,
high number. I
yeah,
don't need to
no,
have a high number. All I need to do is like I read the news and I see some people saying like, oh, this AI is all bullshit, and all, and other people say no, it's real and important. And then I've said like, okay, so people haven't clearly made up their mind. I've made up my mind, so I know where I stand compared to like the average, what the average market participant is thinking, or what the average person planning capacity is thinking. And I think people are under planning.
yeah, and I think it's important to get out there what the demand could look like here in the near future with AI, with this AI and robotics explosion. You know, the 8
I
billion
don't know that
people
it's
on Earth,
robotics.
and the reason why I'm presenting it that way is because you know, how does uranium.io position itself to capture the growing retail investor interest at this intersection of this growing demand, the clean energy desire, you know, and all of humanity moving forward with the electrification of everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the biggest trend has been like people trying to position their portfolio with respect to AI, and then it's kind of like moved down the chain. So I would say the most obvious play, like towards the end of 2022, was Nvidia, which obviously did, you know, very well, and it was like the most direct one. It's like all these AI, you know, if you look at 2022, it's like all these AI companies using Nvidia GPUs, and like Nvidia not being able to ship, for like saying like, no, there's a 6 months waiting list for shipping the H100. It's kind of like, duh. Yeah, it was surprisingly missed. But so, and after Nvidia, people are saying like, oh well, you know, then also there's the distributors, there's the model companies. It's like, and if you go down the chain, you end up with like energy. And another way to look at it is like, if AI commodifies innovation and intelligence, I mean, that raises a whole host of like difficult societal questions. And then I'm going to deliberately leave those aside. There's also a lot of like safety issues, and it's a whole other conversation. With that said, you know, from a pure economic perspective, if innovation, intelligence, all of that is commodified, what you're left with is stuff, right? You know, at the end of the day, the economy is like intelligence plus stuff. And what is stuff? Well, it's essentially energy and commodities and land, this type of things. So I think if we have an AI boom, you have a commodity boom that goes with it.
All right. So taking all of what we were just talking about here with this AI, robotics, humanoid robotics explosion, everything you just mentioned there, you know, the tech giants, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they're all investing heavily in nuclear energy. Why is now a critical moment for folks to participate here?
Oh, I could get the timing wrong. I bought uranium in 2020. I bought uranium in 2021. I was too early. And I saw what happened in 2022. You know, 2022, you have Russia starts invading Ukraine, and all of a sudden you see a few themes like, oh my goodness, you know, Russia's been paying the German Green Party to like be against nuclear, and now we're seeing like all the Europe like dependency on gas. And it was like, if there was one moment for people to go like, holy shit, we need to go all in on nuclear, that might have been it, and it wasn't. So, you know, sometimes what you think is going to be a catalyst is not a catalyst. There's still a lot of risk that could be present. I think like probably the biggest risk to nuclear is that it's slow. It takes time to build those nuclear power plants. It's very government dependent, and governments are slow for approvals. Whereas, you know, the cost of solar keeps dropping. It's very, very fast to build like solar everywhere. So maybe we end up with like a lot of solar and batteries. I still think nuclear is going to be a big part of the equation, but timing is the hardest.
Timing is always the hardest. All right. So, Arthur, Trilitech has been described as a hub for building the future of digital on the blockchain with a focus on high performance applications. Looking beyond uranium.io, what are Trilitech's ambitions for scaling the Tezos based solutions in other industries? And how does uranium.io set a precedent for future tokenized asset platforms?
So the goal of Trilitech is a company based in London. Its goal essentially is improving a lot of things around the Tezos protocol and Tezos ecosystem. So it could mean improving the base layer on which it runs. So there's a lot of core development going on, applications, tooling for developers, but also like pioneering some applications. And one of those has been uranium.io, which was built by developers here at Trilitech. In terms of this platform, I think there's way more metals besides uranium that are potentially interesting to tokenize. In general, I think that commodity markets have not been sufficiently accessible, and they're a great opportunity for tokenization.
Okay. And now we've covered a lot about uranium.io's innovative approach to physical uranium ownership, its role in the AI humanoid clean energy booms, and Trilitech's work on the Tezos blockchain. Is there anything that we haven't discussed, whether it's new development, a unique aspect of the platform, or a broader vision for the future that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I would like to share to try it. First of all, try it. It's I'm not going to give any investment advice, but I will say try buying $1 worth of it and see, just to experience it, because I think it's pretty cool to be able 24/7 around the globe to be able to buy a tiny amount of uranium oxide. And then, even if you just own uranium, you can go to a cocktail party and say, I own the uranium. And
Right.
you'll be very interesting. And of course, if you are a bigger, if you're a fund and you want to do a bigger amount, talk to us. We can also help discuss this. If you have some ideas or are interested in learning more, please reach out. What else should I tell you? That Tezos is an extraordinary blockchain. It's been running without outages since 2018. It keeps improving. It's going through 18 upgrades, and Etherlink is a very fast platform built on top of Tezos. That's mostly it.
Okay, well, I want to welcome everyone who's tuning in to this fantastic interview with Arthur Breitman, co-founder of Tezos. It's been a fantastic discussion. And before we wrap up here, I just want to direct everyone interested in the metals and mining sector to dive into our Substack at metalsandminers.substack.com. Join our quickly growing community, receive a free report. It's titled, "If You Don't Own Gold, You Know Neither History Nor Economics." That's a famous quote by investing legend Ray Dalio, and that's the title of the report. Consider upgrading for access to premium content, but even without premium, there's plenty of free content daily. So visit metalsandminers.substack.com to join us and explore. And thanks again for watching this interview. Now, I'm positive that you've been enjoying the conversation that Arthur and I have been having. Please let him know, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment below the video. All right, Arthur, would you please share a key takeaway that you want viewers to remember, and then let everyone know where they can learn more about your work and how they can connect with you?
Okay, so the key takeaway is uranium is a really interesting asset, and blockchains are not all for circular games. They can actually serve a real purpose, and this is, I think, one of the most exciting use cases that has been brought to this world. So go and check it out. And if you want to get in touch, you can email me, arthur.breitman@trilli.tech. You can put it in the description on the YouTube video. You can also follow me on Twitter @ArthurB. Although I talk about a bit of everything, so it's a hodgepodge.
Okay. Yeah, I will put all that information up on the screen. I will also put it in the description area as a click through for everybody. Yeah. Folks, this is a new innovative product and platform. You need to check it out. It may be something that you want to take advantage of, be a part of. Either way, go have a look. It's very interesting. Arthur, I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you come back on sometime in the near future where we could hear some updates. Thank you for being here. And everybody else, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
I want to welcome everyone who's tuning in to this fantastic interview with Arthur Breitman, co-founder of Tezos. It's been a fantastic discussion. And before we wrap up here, I just want to direct everyone interested in the metals and mining sector to dive into our Substack at metalsandminers.substack.com. Join our quickly growing community, receive a free report. It's titled, "If You Don't Own Gold, You Know Neither History Nor Economics." That's a famous quote by investing legend Ray Dalio, and that's the title of the report.